Hello and welcome back to the video. My name is Andrew Kuhn with Focus Compounding. If this is the first time you're checking in with me, definitely check out all of our content. We have over 113 different podcasts on the podcast app or Podbean, all on investing topics. I want to thank you so much for tuning in with me here today. And in today's video, we are going to be going over my 11 books that I recommend for you to read to become a better investor. So if you go to any value-oriented website and look up book ideas, you're going to get these two books, The Intelligent Investor and Security Analysis by Benjamin Graham. All the big investors recommend it. Warren Buffett always talked about it. And I'm here to tell you today, I'm sorry if this is going to upset you, read these two books if you cannot fall asleep, because that's exactly what they're going to do. They will put you to sleep. It's a bunch of old English, I feel like. It's kind of hard to follow along. The markets were terribly different back then. There's only really 2 chapters in Intelligent Investor that's really worth reading. And in my opinion, I do think there are a lot better books out there today. And we're going to be going over them. If you are familiar with my partner, Geoff Gannon, and myself, we always talk about this book on the podcast. You Can Be a Stock Market Genius by Joel Greenblatt. Definitely read this book if you want to become a better investor. Spends a lot of time on special situations. Obviously, he ran a special situations fund, which did incredibly well, one of the best hedge fund track records in history. And now he is a professor at Columbia where he teaches a special situations class. So that is book number 1 to read on the list. Number 2, the next book is a book that I spent a video talking about, and that is The Warren Buffett Way by Robert Hagstrom. This is one of the only books that I've come across that's written in a very good, concise way that actually talks about Warren Buffett's investing history, and they do case studies on the past investments that he's invested in. Definitely check this book out. I listened to it in the car, and then I also got the book and I read it myself. I have a ton of notes on it, and this is a good book that you are going to want to read. Number 3. Another book that I have made a video on. This is Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits by Philip Fisher. Warren Buffett has said that he's about, I don't know the exact numbers, maybe 70% Philip Fisher and 30% Benjamin Graham. Obviously, Benjamin Graham focused so much time on buying cheap stocks, and Philip Fisher spent a lot of time on buying great companies, even if they were a little bit more expensive, a little bit more of a growthier type of companies. This is a great book. This is good to really think about the marketing strategy of the company, the sales support. You'll really find a bunch of fast-growing companies and really learn a lot more about like the durability of the products, the long-term prospects of the business, and I would definitely suggest reading this book. All right, number 4. This is a book that I don't see a lot of people talk about a lot, but it's also written by Robert Hagstrom, which is the guy that wrote The Warren Buffett Way. And this is a book that I think is one of my favorite books that's not a really known investing book. It's Investing, The Last Liberal Art. He goes into a lot of mental models in this book. He spends a lot of time talking about the psychology of investing. Obviously, investing is one thing, but you're dealing a lot with certain biases that we have. The markets, and I guess you could say liquidity, makes a lot of people act irrationally. So this is definitely a book that covers a lot of that, and it goes over a lot of mental models, and I would definitely suggest reading that book. Okay, number 5. This is my favorite book of all time, and it's The Snowball, and it's about Warren Buffett's life. Obviously, there was another biography written about him, which is The Making of American Capitalists. But this book really spent a lot more time going into his personal life. I've listened to this book probably 6 to 8 times. I've read it a few times. But whenever I'm trying to find some inspiration, I guess you could say, I really like to go back to his early days when he was really grinding it out all day on everything investing. So this is definitely, just a really good book. It goes through, his childhood to adulthood, to where he's at today. It was written by Schroeder, which is someone that was very close to him and had access to all the people close to Warren. It goes into his family life. It goes into his investing career. And if you're looking for inspiration or you just really want to read a good book, this is definitely it. Book number 6 is another book from Warren Buffett. It's actually wasn't written by him, but it took all of his investor letters and sort of compiled them together. And that book is The Essays of Warren Buffett. Lessons for Corporate America. If you ask any successful person in the investment industry about how to get smarter in investing, they'll certainly tell you to read this book, but they'll also tell you to read everything Warren Buffett has ever written. his partnership letters, his Berkshire Hathaway investor letters. They're all the best source of content. I did tweet out about a file that has, I think, 4,000 to 5,000 words on it. Everything that Warren Buffett has ever written, I use that file all the time to control F certain topics through, but this is definitely a book that you have to read. All right, book number 7 is Quality of Earnings. This is a fantastic book, and one, if you are doing fundamental analysis, that you have to read. This is actually recommended by Bill Ackman to one of his analysts, and I just happened to come across that and decided I had to read it. I have a ton of notes, ton of highlights in this book. It's really goes over the auditing of the financial statements, so if you are a fundamental investor, this is a must-have. If you're not comfortable in the financial statements, you definitely need to check this out. All right, number 9. This is another one of those hidden gem investing books, and this is called The Focus Investor by Richard Rockwood. I'm going to put all this stuff in the description. This is a book that you never hear people talk about, but in my opinion, this is probably one of the best investing books I've ever read. Definitely top 5. It goes over the investing process in a value-oriented way, fundamental analysis, but then also it spends a lot of time going over mental models, which anyone that knows myself knows that that's something that's very interesting to me. You know, they go through a bunch of different models from business, economics, psychology, sociology, and that's definitely one that is definitely worth your time. He also writes a blog, I believe, called The Focus Investor. Don't quote me on that, but that's actually how I did find this book years ago. I've read it probably 3 times. Yeah, it's actually called focusinvestor.com. It's on the back. So definitely check that out. No relation to focus compounding, but it sounds like he runs his portfolio a little bit similar and thinks about it similarly to the way that we think about it, even though I think he operates in bigger companies. But that is number 8. Number 9, 100 to 1 in the stock market. This is an old book. If you come across growth-oriented investors, they're always going to tell you to read this book. A newer edition of this book is actually called 100 Baggers, but that's exactly what this book focuses on. It looks for companies that you could pretty much put in a coffee can portfolio, which they actually talk about in 100 Baggers, and own it forever and make 100 times your money. So this is a good book that goes over that. Focuses a lot on companies that earn high returns on capital, have reinvestment opportunities to redisperse that capital at high rates, but this is a good book to read. Number 11, Financial Shenanigans by Howard Schilit. This is a fantastic book. It's about how to detect accounting gimmicks and fraud in the financial statements. It's really more of a case study type of book where they go over past situations and how you could have recognized it beforehand. This book was recommended from the billionaire hedge fund manager Dan Loeb in a talk that he gave that's actually on YouTube. As you can see, I have a ton of notes in here, and I've read it a few different times. And this is one of those books that you should reread every single year. And every time you do reread it, there's going to be something else that you pick up on. So that is number 11. And then finally, number 12. This is one of my favorite books, Seeking Wisdom from Darwin to Munger. This is not really an investing technical book, but it spends a lot of time thinking about how Charlie Munger thinks and mental models, the psychology of you know, things that go on in life, certain biases that we have, and really how humans could act irrational in a lot of situations and how to guard against it. So that is a fantastic book. Charlie Munger says if you are not aware of these mental models in life, you are like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. It's kind of a tongue twister, but that's a fantastic book. So definitely check that out. It's one of my favorites, and you certainly will like it as well. But that's it. Those are the top 12 books that I would recommend to you to read to become a better investor. Of course, books, there's a bunch of new ones always coming out. I really enjoy reading these, though, every single year, so I think you will as well. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning with me here today. If you do not know who I am, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button. I'm going to be pumping out 3 videos a week. Follow me on Twitter at Focus Compound, and check out all of our content at the Focus Compounding website. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.